Awesome. Let's get Facebook in here. Can start the show. We're doing it. Rocking. There we go. All right. Welcome in. It is Wednesday morning, July 2nd, man. June. What a Charlie Foxtrot of a month. But we arrived at July. Things are looking up. Things are better. Hopefully it's not too hot wherever you are. It's been hot the last 2 days here in Seattle, but it's starting to cool down a little bit. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Erick Trickel. Erick, how's summer going for you? The days are starting to get a little shorter already, as crazy as that sounds. We're getting closer to football season, the meet and greet, and talking about it last night with Carl. I'm not typically, your everything is sunshine and rainbows and kitties and butterflies, but I feel as hopeful and optimistic for a Broncos team this season as I have dating back to prior to the 2014 season, before it felt like we were, after 2014, it was a little bit more, did we miss our window? This year, I mean, there's questions, no doubt, but I am excited. They're all like positive, and I'm a skeptical person. I don't, confirmation or appeal to authority, all that stuff. I'm not there right now. I'm just trusting Peyton, both Peytons. Well,
Oh, did you freeze up? Uh-oh. Looks like Nick froze up. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday morning. And yeah, I mean, as Nick was saying, hopefully he gets whatever's going on figured out here shortly. As Nick was saying, I'm kind of in the same boat as he is. I'm very optimistic. I'm very excited for the season. For some of you who've been following the show for a while, or Mile High Huddle for a while, typically that's not the case. Typically, I have a hard time seeing, more than 8 or 9 wins for this team, especially over the last few seasons. And this year, I've gone pretty bold, saying 13-4. So I'm very, optimistic for the way this Broncos team is, the roster that George Payton and Sean Payton have both built together. And Nick seems to dropped off. I'll keep an eye out for something for that. And yeah, I'm just very optimistic about the team and what they have and the roster that they have and what they can do this year. I mean, a lot of it starts with having a quarterback who actually looks viable. And thank you, Dylan, for jumping in while we figure out what's going on with Nick here. But how are you doing, first of all? And how are you when it comes to, the season and, the optimism and the hype and all that as we get ever so closer? I can't believe that we're in a month with football already. July 31st, football's back.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for letting me hop in for a second. Hopefully Nick gets his stuff figured out. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm pretty optimistic about the season. I always use the phrase cautiously optimistic because I like to hedge my bets, call me a coward if you want, but yeah, I haven't really done my record prediction yet, but anywhere between 10 to 13 to 14 wins, I think it's very doable, especially Bo Nix, second season in the system. You get him some new weapons, upgrade the defense somehow because it was so great already last year. So pretty excited and optimistic for sure.
Yeah, we'll give a few more minutes for Nick to jump in here. I'm waiting to have my phone on, waiting to see if he gives me some kind of update that way. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much to be optimistic. But as you said, there is some, caution with it. Of course, we talk about it often, that dreaded sophomore slump for a quarterback. Always got to be a little bit mindful of that, even though I don't know if you've ever talked about it, but I've said multiple times, I'm not super worried about it. I think the Broncos have the right coach in Sean Payton to help limit the possibility of that. And I think Bo Nix himself is a smart enough quarterback to help avoid that. And looks like we're getting Nick back in here. Nope.
Maybe not.
There he is.
There we go. There's Nick.
Awesome.
My internet crapped halfway through there. I'm here. How we doing?
Doing good.
Thanks, Dylan, for jumping in. All of a sudden, it said receiving 0 in my performance on my task manager there, and then boop, I was gone. So I don't know. It's not letting me move myself around either. So we'll just get it going here. I'm back. Good to see you. Lord only knows. It's July. We do want to say hello to everybody in here. Erick, you're doing good. We were making you jealous before we started with Costco talk, but the beard's still going strong. What were we saying?
We're just talking about the optimism for the Broncos this season and where that falls in. And I was kind of repeating what you were saying a little bit about how normally I'm a little more pessimistic about the views of the Broncos. I don't think, as long as we've been doing this live, I don't think I've ever had Denver, in that double-digit win column. It's always been, 8 or 9 at the most. But this year, I have them sitting at 13-4. That's my flat-on prediction. I could see them winning, but obviously there's some give and take. I can see them, going down to 11 wins. But I think at least 11 is what's going to be coming this season. And I was mentioned, how there's always that bit of caution, especially with a second-year quarterback and that dreaded sophomore slump. But as I've talked about before, there's kind of those aspects around him and with Bo Nix himself that make me a little bit more optimistic about his ability to avoid that sophomore slump. Having Sean Payton as a play caller, playing to his strengths a little bit more, I think that's something that's going to help there avoid that.
Honestly, I guess I'm excited about the season. I'm a little bit more pessimistic than you are in this front, though. I think probably your range is 8 to 12 wins. Now, why, Nick? Last season we won 10 games. I think it's, even though it's only Denver last 2 seasons has been overly healthy or very healthy, first and third or something in injuries. I think it's more fair to expect them finishing average in games lost for starters. I don't think if you have like a decade of being above injury luck, then there's something there. But 2 years, that's 2 dice rolls. We rolled an 11 once and a 12 once. That happens, right? So I still probably would rather assume average injury luck. And I think with that, you're probably talking a little bit more like, where are they last season with average injury luck? 8 wins instead. So I think you're probably a little bit more. Also, it's the defensive side of the ball. I feel like they're, again, a little bit more volatile. Last season, they're not going to break the franchise sack record again. I wouldn't expect. They could regress some a little bit in some of the stats and be a better, more talented unit. It's just, matchups matter, health matters. It's a weak link system, as we saw in the Cleveland game last season. So I'm probably more 8 to 12, but that's not a bad place to be for this team. I mean, heck, it might even be 8 to 13. But that's wide variety of outcomes for this team, still all the same. But it's really the injury one for me, that rather than Bo Nix and other questions that we have, along with the defense. They're going to be great, but we'll see what it looks like. Brian Dunn coming in here. Good morning, Nick, Eric, and DVA in Broncos country. I think we need to start calling Dylan. You need to get way more into the advanced analytics. And we're going to change our name to Dylan Vaughn of ARCs. So you can be DVOA. That would be, you can just be a manifestation of Football Outsiders data. We got Congra Hydra coming in here. Hope you're doing well. It says halfway through 2025. My God. Time flies, folks. Time flies. That is scary. You're right, but I hate it. I'm Jason Bonney. Good morning, Broncos country. Always the optimist, Jason Bonney. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Always the supporter of the show, Michael Ronquillo. Says good morning, Nick and Eric on Broncos for breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Appreciate you, Michael. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you, man. Always, if you have anything for us in the chat other than the salutations that you get us, let us know. Kevin's in the house with the old school Crazy Horse Broncos. Says, sup, fellas? Out of all the playoff teams last year, who do you see not making it back this year? I think Jason kind of steals it here with us, but Aaron Rodgers, I know the Steelers have been kind of going for it. I really hate betting against Mike Tomlin too, because he's like an automatic 8 wins in there, but the defense is another year older. There's a lot of like weird TJ Watt conversation going on right now. I think those are all the teams that stand out for me as maybe not making it. You got to bet on the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills. I mean, it's probably the Texans as well, right? Still, we've been talking so much about that defense. The offensive coordinator being that the offensive line still stinks, though. So maybe not them. But it's probably the Steelers, followed then by between a tie between the Broncos and the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that. And you got to look at the division of it, too. So, like the Houston Texans within that division, I don't see the Colts being good enough to push for the division title. I don't see the Jaguars being there. I don't see the Titans being there. Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they're the top of the division until they're dethroned. And I think at the very least, maybe Denver or the Chargers could sneak the division title away from them. But I think at the very least, barring, a catastrophic injury to, Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be a playoff team. Buffalo Bills, again, looking at the division, they're a threat for them. Baltimore Ravens, now that is a tough one because that is has been a very tough division, but I still think the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they've gone all in this year, I think that they've somehow managed to get worse in many ways. And, just a very volatile team that, 5 years ago would have been a fantastic team. But nowadays, you got a lot of older players on the decline. And on the NFC, I think, again, talking about the division, I think you got to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a little bit. Just because, obviously there's what's going to happen with the Falcons. The Panthers aren't that great. The Saints aren't that great. But the Buccaneers still barely won that division. So I think on the NFC side of it, you can be looking at the Buccaneers, but Buccaneers, Pittsburgh, those are my top two. And then of course, Denver and the Chargers, like you said, just with the way the division is, they can one of those teams could still win 10, 11 games and still possibly miss the playoffs.
Also, I was just thinking the AFC for some reason. I guess you also got to talk Vikings, right? Like last season, they lost their quarterback. They are the NFC North is a very crazy, tough division. Packers as well. I mean, that defense hasn't really lived up to the amount of draft picks they put on it. So they're out there. Who even won the NFC West last season? It was the Rams? I probably would vote the Rams again on that side of things. So, and then you mentioned the NFC South. Who's the NFC East? Commanders could fall flat. I mean, their defensive line lost a lot of pieces, and it kind of felt a little flash in the pans. Jaden Daniels' play style, I think, lends itself to injury concerns. So the NFC feels a lot more open than the AFC right now. But we will see. Right, even the best predictors, you get their rankings and standings prediction and look at it a year after. It's like, oh, what an idiot! Who thought the Broncos last season? Not me. Definitely not me. You can call me an idiot. I can take it. I'm a man. I'm not quite 40. But we got Jake Levian coming in, says, good morning, Broncos country. Definitely the doldrums of the offseason. Wouldn't want to share with anyone, but this community, yeah, we are here. The content is slow, but the content keeps coming, and we're hanging out with you guys, although I might not be here next Monday. We'll see. I don't get many days where I'm child-free, and if my wife is feeling better, I might leave my house at like midnight and try to climb a mountain in the dark for sunrise. We'll see. The mountain that I want to do might not be thawed enough yet. And I read a report yesterday said, I'm really glad I brought my ice axe. I don't know if I want to do that in the dark. Especially with my buddy who's not as crazy as I am. So if I had somebody who like really knew what they were doing, I'd be okay. But I don't know. DeAndre, good morning, boys. Can't wait for training camp to start. Go Broncos. Excited for it. It's kind of like, kind of view it like fatherhood. You say, I can't wait for them to be walking around and can go hike with me. Well, yes, you can. Enjoy the moment right now because the season's a grind. And once it's going, the momentum picks up and it just ramps up, and then you get real busy. And it doesn't end when the Super Bowl ends. It ramps up from there. So I'm excited for it as well, but I'm also appreciating it being, being able to stretch our legs a little bit right now. Talk about Costco and everything like that. I don't know. Can we talk about Costco on a Broncos show? Go to Sam's Club. I guess that's the one you want to head to. Keeping it rocking and rolling here. We got Kevin saying Penix showed some promise at the end. He did show promise at the end. I do the Falcons show with Scott before this as well. I haven't wanted to invoke this name because it's not fair, but it could be that false positive as well still, but it was like 5 games. He has the arm talent, no doubt, but injury stuff, protecting the football, and the accuracy is a little bit hit or miss sometimes. So I won't say the name in here, but we'll see. I think it's good to be, there's optimism, but it's a very small sample size based optimism, kind of like Colin Cowherd saying Drew Lock dark horse MVP candidate. Lord knows there's a wide range of outcomes that can come still. But thanks to everybody coming here. Todd hanging out. Bo Nixie saying is QB 1B from this draft. This is so hard for me. Man, this would be a good offseason conversation as well. And this is going to make me come off as a hater. I think the way it stands right now, and granted, we're talking about the broad sample size and everything, the 2024 draft, based on 1 year of sample results, looks to be the best quarterback draft in maybe a decade. Just like the 6 went in the top 12, right? Like that's a record. Unbelievable. And like when we're ranking the quarterbacks, it's like if we were doing a redraft right now, I probably would take Nix as the 4th quarterback off the board. And that sounds like a slight to him. But like if you think about it, like in a decade sample, he's probably going to be one of the top 8, in those guys. I mean, I'd need to like sit down and like write it all out and everything. But I think it has more to do with just how unbelievably talented that 2024 class is. And sometimes it's not like who you draft at quarterback, it's when you draft at quarterback. And the Broncos, they missed 2 years of top 10 picks, and then they get their top 12 pick, and it's not quite high enough to have a super quarterback prospect in most classes, but they get it at the right year, at the right time. It lines up. I mean, give them credit. A lot of people, me too, thought Nix was more of like a Derek Carr range, early second round quarterback. He looks way better than that after 1 year sample size and a good offensive line, Sean Payton, all that, whatever. Great. He's 4th to me, but it's like in a class that looks like it could be special to me. So like right now, I know Nix was better than Caleb Williams last season. Nix was in a far better situation, like not even close, night and day situation. Quarterback, offense, or coach, offensive line. Caleb Williams is a little toolsier. He's 4 years younger, 3 years younger. I'm probably taking then Jaden Daniels. I think he's the one that everybody would for sure take over Nix right now. Yeah. I think it's a conversation with Nix, May, and Caleb Williams. And I think May and Caleb Williams were in far worse situations and are like 3 years younger with more raw tools still, which I do tend to bank on. So it's a conversation. He's definitely in the top 4 right now, but I don't think that's a discredit to him. That's wow, this class is awesome for me.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's tough too, because it's also always going to depend on what is it you're looking at a little bit. You like to look at those raw tools a little bit. Not everyone else will look at those raw tools. So look at that immediate, the immediate results of it. And Drake May struggled a lot last year, but as you said, situation wasn't all him. Caleb Williams had his moments, but he also had those awful moments. But again, it wasn't all him. Bo Nix, he was in a much better situation. He still had some of those bad moments, but we saw a little bit more, more consistency from him, especially over the, last bit of the season. So there's a lot of different ways you can go to it. I think that one thing we can all agree with is that Jaden Daniels is definitely the one that would probably be the number 1 guy at quarterback right now, just because of what he did. But who knows, in 2 or 3 years, maybe we're no longer talking about him that way, because maybe his body doesn't hold up with his play style, a la, Robert Griffin III, and what happened with him with the injuries and everything once they piled up and how things plummeted for him. So it's very tough right now. I would definitely, I'm probably right there with you. I'm probably, thinking 3 or 4 for Bo Nix, probably leaning 4, just because, the raw tools that, May and Williams having the understanding of the terrible situations they were in. I still think I would take them over Nix at this point. But as you said, it's not a slight against Bo Nix. It's just that class looks to be so gosh darn good at the moment. And so it's not a slight against him. And even though I'm sure a lot of people in chat are going to take it as a slight, but it's just one of those things that is tough right now. And in 2 or 3 years, maybe, 2 or 3 years, we can look back on this and, both you and I, just as we were thinking that Nix is a second round pick, we could be foolish for thinking Nix isn't, the second guy.
Yeah. A better way to put it is like, Nix might be, I still might take him as the 3rd or 4th quarterback in the draft. That's one way to frame it. The other way I'm looking at it is Nix probably should have been the 3rd or 4th overall pick. That's how good I think these quarterbacks are and have looked. And I got the first round quarterbacks in the last 8 years of draft class this year, and guys like I would definitively take over Bo Nix right now. You have Patrick Mahomes, of course, but he's over Trubisky and Watson. You got the 2018 class. You're taking him over. I'm taking him over Mayfield. Mayfield's turned it around in Tampa, but I think he's a little bit capped. So I appreciate Mayfield. He plays with big balls. He's a fun player, but I like Nix a little bit more. Darnold, I like Nix more. You got Allen and Jackson in that class too. You're taking those guys over him. Definitely all over the quarterbacks in 2019. Maybe not definitely. It might be I'm probably biased. Like you ask an average person, you're taking for sure Nix over Kyler Murray. I probably am right now. You're probably NFL analyst at large. Probably wouldn't yet, but I'm banking on maybe there's more meat on the bone there than Daniel Jones and Haskins, of course. Rest in peace, Haskins. 2020, you're probably taking Burrow and Herbert over him at this point, but I'm taking him over too. I'm taking him over Jordan Love. 2 guys who got big contracts. Taking him over all the quarterbacks in 2021. Definitely taking him over the quarterbacks in 2022. I think there's a conversation with him and Stroud. You're probably taking Stroud, but it's close. Like these guys like Stroud and gosh, who's the other one? Kyler Murray. I think there's at least a conversation there to be had. And then 2024, I mean, pretty unbelievable draft class to have 6 in the top 12. And I'm still a huge Drake May fan. And like, I don't know, if you look at Ben Baldwin's offensive line projections last season, Broncos are the number 1 offensive line in football, according to his metrics and pass protection. The Patriots were 32nd, and May was still able to drive that offense. It's 1 year sample size. It's hard to say. He had a lot more putting the ball in harm's way because of that. But man, I probably still am taking May, and I still lean a little bit more on the college evaluations. I'm probably taking Williams, but it's a conversation. He could be too. I think there is an argument, but it's also an argument for 4. So it's a great draft class. And again, I'm just very thankful the Broncos didn't lose their first round draft pick in 2024. They still had that one. And it was a year where the deep class, where 12th overall, actually gave him a chance at what appears to be a franchise quarterback. So, man, really good for the Broncos. And we'll see what the ceiling is, right? Like we're 1 year sample, like baked in with the offensive line. But he is married to Sean Payton, and I trust the infrastructure in place too. So it'd be great if, a decade from now, we're having the conversation of, is Bo Nix overrated, or is he just part of a system where they don't ask him to do very much? Kind of like we had many years with Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady, right? It's like, I've put me on the Tom Brady side of things there in that one as far as team success. So good conversation. Maybe that should have been the title of the show. I really, though, do want to frame it and emphasize, like, if we're grading these guys, like, oh, he's 4th. Everybody's getting an A. They're all A's. So special quarterback class, as it appears 1 year in. Jason Bonney, $5. Thank you. Says, as the president of the Troy Franklin fan club, I have to say, get ready for launch. I hope so, Jason. I hope so. Club is still taking applications. I am probably not going to fill in one for that, but depending on where the stock is at, I might, throw a couple dollars on there low. But if there's anybody I'm buying right now, it's probably Pat Bryant, just because what they invested in him and how Sean Payton's talked about him. But there's room for somebody to emerge. That's for sure. And there's also definitely a role for Franklin in this offense.
Yeah, that's the thing with Franklin, is I think that you can have that clear role for him, but there's a lot that he needs to do and show to be more than that role. And it's a similar conversation that we have with Marvin Mims, right? Marvin Mims, he's kind of filled in that gadget player role for them in this offense, but can he become more than that? I'm not entirely sure. There is a lot that Franklin needs to work on. We talk about the hands and his ball tracking over his shoulder, and that's a big issue with him. But there's still some route running stuff. He's still very limited on the short and intermediate stuff. And he can run that deep post. He can run those bubble screens and stuff like that, and he does those well. But what's in between the wider range of routes that a wide receiver needs to run, there's some questions there with it. So there's a lot to, be optimistic, I guess, about with Troy Franklin, but it's time for him to go out there and show it and see if he can be more than that role. And that's why, when we talk about who's going to the favored to win the number 2 wide receiver spot, it's Devon Bailey and Pat Bryant's the conversation there, not so much Mims and Franklin, because the Bailey and Bryant both have that wider range of a skill set and not as niche as Mims and Franklin to be that number 2 wide receiver opposite Sutton and, be more for the offense instead of filling that niche role.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. We got, say hello to more people in here. Brian Dunn, AT Perry fan club. Where he at? Lord only knows. And I would sell, if there's any wide receivers I'm selling stock on, it's probably AT Perry right now. Hasn't been present. I don't know if there's other things going on with him.
He's been hurt.
He's been hurt. Okay. Sean Payton was real coy with it. So I don't know. Regardless, there's just so many young options that this team drafted to bring in that I can't imagine. Roy Osborne, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Paul gives us an A+. That's a little high. My mother would give me an A+. My wife wouldn't give me an A+, though. Yeah, Jason says 4 is a slight. Just think of them as grades instead. You're in a classroom. It's an AP class, and there's 6 kids in it, and 4 of them have A's. One of them got 100 out of 100. One got 98. One got 96. One got 95. they're freaking all good. So we'll see what it looks like with the next test this season. As Todd points out here, you can be really high one year and then regress. So the sample size broadens and you kind of get a little bit more information about it. So we will definitely see. Gatorade says Mims needs to step up this year. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for wide receivers this year, but let's get into it here. We're going to grade.
Can I just say something real quick with the Mims? It's tough talking about him a little bit because he's still an all-pro player. He's been an all-pro player each of his 2 years so far, but there's also that separation of what he's done as a returner versus what he's done as a receiver. Amazing returner, great for special teams, but Denver didn't draft him and trade up to draft him just for that all-pro returner. They want more out of him on offense, and they need more out of him on offense. How much more? Probably not a whole lot. If they can get what they got out of the last, 8, 10, 12 games last year, get that out of him consistently, that's probably more than good enough for Marvin Mims for them.
Yeah. Hoping he can emerge. I mean, I know some people have been really harping on that end of year run that he went on. I know Sean Payton looks down at the play sheet, says, get Marvin Mims the ball, but the past is the best predictor of the future. And right now he's been erratic and he's been a little bit more, and it's chicken or the egg with him, right? It's probably, I mean, you can watch him run when the ball doesn't go to him, but a lot of it's, the underneath screen gadgety stuff or the deep stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of also been true for the Broncos in the true drop back pass game as well. So that's with Russell Wilson, and that was somewhat with Bo Nix last season as well. So we'll see. Is that a Sean Payton thing? We're going to find out as the offense evolves and they try to develop and pull different levers on offense. But grading the Broncos positional groups right now, I'm going to go with I really much grade on the true bell curve. So like if you are, let's say, slightly below average, you're a D. If you are slightly above average, you're a B. It's not this nonsense where like a C is an F kind of thing, and not some childs are left behind with my grading scale. So our positional groups, at least. So I'm going to go with the Broncos quarterback first. And on that perspective of like the true bell curve, I think Nix is a slightly above average quarterback right now for the Broncos. I'm going to put him at a B, but it's more of a B minus versus a B plus. But I think it's, I think he's a B. And again, that's on the tough curve. So that's, in my perspective, advantage after 1 year sample with still questions about him in the true drop back pass game and everything. That's praise to me. And some people, Jason, Todd, maybe won't see it that way in the chat. But that puts him somewhere like the 14th to 11th best quarterback in football. So I'm excited. I'm going to give him and the room a B. And the quarterback's weird. I'm not including like Stidham or whatever else in there. The quarterback takes up a majority of the pie. If it was like an older quarterback with a younger one, maybe we have a little bit more of a conversation of the depth and like chance for a guy that's drafted and developed, but it's Bo Nix. B.
Yeah, I do it a little bit differently. Obviously, I factor in, the backup quarterback situation, just because you do have to account for injuries to some extent. If Bo Nix goes down, how confident are we in Jarrett Stidham to be that starter? For me, it doesn't change much, though. I would still give them, Bo Nix as a B, but with Jarrett Stidham, Sam Ehlinger, it does bring it down to a B minus. Not much of one. I'm already talking about B minus, and so it's not major. Most of it is carried by Bo Nix, but if he goes down, knock on wood, don't want that to happen. I don't have confidence in Jarrett Stidham to, lead this team really. Do I think he could get a win or two, depending on how long he's playing? Possibly. But I think he's a guy that really needs the talent around him to help carry him instead of, being able to help carry the talent, where I see Bo Nix being a little bit more apt to be able to carry that around him. We saw a little bit of that last year. Still could use more talent around him, of course. So I'm not too far from you. I'm just go with a B minus for the quarterback position as a whole, dragged down a little bit because of the situations behind Bo Nix.
Yeah. So again, I don't think it's a big negative on him by any means. If you look at it where the 32nd ranked room is a F, even the 28th ranked room is probably an F. So I think that puts him 11 to 14 range, which that's where I'd put him. And because of optimism of growth and what it looks like in the second year. So yeah. And as this season goes, yeah, he's probably like if we're just talking 2025 in context of the age and the situation around him, I think it's probably right, because I still need to see what it looks like under new regimes with May and Williams. But again, you're talking 3 or 4 years younger. I mean, those quarterbacks are so young that it would be before Bo Nix, I think, had even played one snap at Oregon yet, is where they are in their age as quarterbacks. So that's doesn't mean that Nix is going to, hit a ceiling or anything. I think that honestly, that might be a little overrated, but it's just, I want to see what they look like at that age and that many reps as where Nix has been. And it might be a benefit of the transfer portal, getting these guys more snaps and everything. So that's where I'm at with it. And I'm glad to see, I don't critical, but on the overall scope of things. So running back room now, again, I'm a tough grader. We don't know about this room yet. They weren't good last season. I don't trust Dobbins' history. We don't know about Harvey yet. I'm going to give him a D minus. I'm not as so low. Maybe they should be an F if I'm talking about the 32nd ranked room. I don't think they'll be there. But until we see Harvey, I'm a lot riding on him. They're probably somewhere closer to like 30th to 25th room right now until proven otherwise. I just don't trust Dobbins' injury history. So I probably give him a D minus right now in the room.
Yeah, I was a little bit lower than you on quarterback, so I'm a little bit higher on you with the running back position. Not much. I'd probably go C minus D plus with it, just because running back is very easy to transition, and we see guys come into the NFL and have that great year or two and all that, and just running back's easy to transition to it. So RJ Harvey should be able to. Yes, we don't know what he's going to be, but J.K. Dobbins wasn't much of a needle mover for me. I liked him, and I did think that Denver should look his way. I talked about that multiple times. I just thought they should wait a little bit longer for it. But yeah, I mean, not only the injury history with him, but how much he fell off after the first few weeks last year. That doesn't help much. Tyler Bidet, Jaleel McLaughlin. I think Jaleel McLaughlin's pretty, I don't want to say safe, but has a pretty good chance of making the roster, but he's still very limited in what he can do. He's a first or second down, slasher only. Tyler Bidet, what is he going to be? Where's he at with that back injury that kept him out for the rest of the season last year after getting off to that hot start? Blake Watson is a nothing burger for me. So I'm a little bit higher just because again, because of Harvey, he's lifting up that room a little bit and how easy it is for running backs to transition, but not so much more. It's not like a C plus. It's definitely C minus D or C minus D plus for me, because again, bad room that still has so many questions about it.
And like, this is, you're correct to say like second round pick running backs translate the easiest, but it's still an unknown for me.
It is.
So it's hard to really put too much weight in the room for this season until we see what it looks like, right? Like right now we know so little. So it's a room that has honestly as much like potential for growth as any positional group on this whole entire Broncos team, because of what they put in the unit and where Harvey was drafted. And like you mentioned, how quickly they can get return on investment. I'm probably leaning D though right now on them, on the grading, like on the whole. Luckily, I'm very much of the belief that running back is the most dependent position in football on their success. Situationally, it's offensive line, it's the scheme, it's the quarterback, it's the weapons, all of it building that environment for the running back. And I think the environment is phenomenal, other than having like a, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase that clears out space, or Randy Moss, where it's like, you're never going to see a loaded box in your life. That would change the dynamic a little bit more, but yeah, it's a good situation for a running back. So I'm going to give him a D. Moving on now to wide receivers. I'll probably give the wide receivers, and this may be me overvaluing them, but I feel like I love Sutton. I love the variety of options that they have. I think you're talking about a C, probably a C for the wide receiver room right now. Again, one that has a lot of opportunities. And I'm grading, like, for me, I keep saying it on the scale. If you're ranking them against the entirety of the league, the 16th ranked room is a C. The 20th ranked room is a D plus. So I think they're probably somewhere like the 16th wide receiver room, 17th. So that puts them for a C for me.
when you started talking, I thought for sure this was gonna be the one where we, had actually a pretty big difference between us. But you surprised me a little bit after your lead up there to say C. I'm right there with you. I think it's a C. It's definitely lifted up by Cortland Sutton because the rest of the room is just potential at this point. We don't know what they're going to be. Yeah, Devon Bailey had a great rookie year. Best rookie year for a guy who was drafted outside and in the 7th round since Marquise Colson. That's been thrown around a lot. So that's great. Marvin Mims, they seem to have found a role for him, but they definitely need more out of all of them. And as much as I did like the pick of Pat Bryant and how excited I am for that, it's still an unknown. And it's not like running back where wide receivers have this easy transition to the NFL, especially in a scheme like like Sean Payton's. It's a good sign that he's looking as good as he has so far and has been picking things up. But still a lot of concern there. Somebody's got to step up. It can't just be the Cortland Sutton show with the wide receiver room full of potential. And this is one that I think after the season we can probably be talking about as that, in that B range, either B- to B+ or a B. If some of these guys step up, get so much room for potential, but there is so much room for just a complete failure of the unit outside of Cortland Sutton as well.
Yeah. So C for me. Again, that's a room that has some options for growth here. So now we're on to the tight end room. I'll probably give the tight end room a C- right now. Troutman doesn't really move the needle for me. We all know. I mean, Lucas Kroll, the world's best OTA player of all time. Ingram's coming off injuries. Is he wide receiver? Is he tight end? I think you're probably talking about it slightly lower upside and options compared to the wide receiver room. So probably a C- for me. I am excited about Ingram, and maybe I'm being too hard on them because there's not a lot of quality tight ends. So I think about it just from a Broncos perspective. I wish I had another young wide receiver. If we had an extra pick last year and they took Mason Taylor, you're talking about a B- then. But Troutman, questions after that. Nate Atkins, back into the roster. You're a useful player, not really changing the grade that much. So it's probably a C- for tight end as well. But much better last season where, let's be honest, this room would have been a straight up F. So that's how much the difference is. Just adding Ingram, you're moving up 2 letter grades there.
Yeah, I'm not far from you. I'm a little bit lower. I'm probably going D+ for tight end room, and that's definitely carried by Evan Ingram. Without him, it's an F. But he doesn't lift it too much because of his age and injury history. Coming off a season where he missed 8 games, hamstring caused him to miss games early in the season, then tore his pec. Great player when on the field, but how much can we bet on him being on the field? I mean, you mentioned injuries a lot, and everybody talks about how well they stayed healthy, but was that really their training and medical staff unit, or was it the fact that Sean Payton purged the roster of guys who got hurt often? This year will be very telling for that. But it's Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram gets the D+ pretty much. Everyone else is just a flat out F. Adam Troutman, very overrated. He's not that good of a blocker. He's useful in certain aspects, but not much. Nate Atkins was a better blocker last year, but again, he's not a guy that, is some fantastic blocker who you have to have out there as a blocker. Just a little bit more consistent. Lucas Kroll, man, if Denver could have even a slightly better tight end than him, that would be phenomenal. The Lucas Kroll hype is way too high. Everybody wanted to hype Greg Dulcich or slam Greg Dulcich for his blocking. Lucas Kroll is so much worse, and it's so tough watching him out there in blocking situations. So he definitely drags the room down a little bit. Caleb Lohner, not a needle mover either way, just because 57 snaps played in college as a tight end. Not really betting on that. And
lottery ticket.
Yeah, it's a lottery ticket. So it's Evan Ingram is what gets them to a D+ for me.
Yeah, so I'm C- Feel a little bit better about the wide receiver room, which is more C+ area. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hand for those at home. It's a magic trick going on here. And now the offensive line. Oh, man, Nick, really hating the skill positions. You read any offseason article, a lot of it's about the questions about the skill position. But offensive line, straight up A. Straight up A. What's keeping them from being an A+? I don't know if you have pure domination road grading on the offensive line that we see, like from some of the best run blocking offensive line. I mean, Quinn Miners is like as an individual. McGlinchey, good there, but tends to be a little bit more wall off. I don't think you got like the true one-on-one earth moving from Powers or Bowles or Wattenberg, but they're all back. The continuity, it's an A. What keeps it from A plus? Some of those questions are also the depth is unknown for a lot. They haven't really invested in the depth with any sort of premium assets. Now, granted, that's a luxury because it's not a rotational position, but it does keep them, a little bit questionable for me on the whole. So still an A. I mean, the defense is better than the offense, no doubt. There's a chance, though, the offensive line is the best unit for this Broncos team on the whole. And it's at least the third most important unit on a team. So obviously quarterback's number one. But defensive line / offensive line, I probably lean defensive line with star power especially, but offensive line, A. And they get a lot of weight for me. And because of that, I mean, the offense as a whole is probably a BB minus, despite being C lower with every single one of the skill positions. You got a B at the quarterback. You got an A at the offensive line. You got Sean Payton. Feel good about it the whole bit. I mean, I just want to, what the offensive line is, it's the great table setter for everything else. If you lose there, I don't care if you have, I do care a little bit, but hyperbole, I don't care if you have all pros at running back and wide receiver. Your offensive line's getting beat every rep. They're going to be neutralized. So offensive line A, stay healthy.
I'm not far off. I would give them an A minus. I agree with a lot with what you said. The depth of it is concerning, but I'm also concerned with Ben Powers and Luke Wattenberg and what they're able to do, and that drags it down just a hair notch for me, as well as the depth. And then, Mike McGlinchey with the injury history, missed some time last year. What can he do? So that also drags it down a little bit. So A minus is where I'm at. It's a great unit. Again, probably as you said, among the, if not the best, among the best position groups or units on the Broncos roster in general. Love what they've done. Hopefully we see Ben Powers, kind of, for all the hate that he gets, he's not a terrible offensive lineman. He's overpaid, but he's a solid starter, just overpaid. Luke Wattenberg, what are we going to get out of him? Can he grow from where he was? Because last year was his first year as a starter. Saw some, reps early, but wasn't a full-time starter. Can he grow from there? So there's some concerns with the unit, but it is still a great unit overall, even with those concerns.
Yeah, they're an A for me. Yeah, this should be the doom and gloom show. I don't think it is doom and gloom. I'm sorry, Todd. I don't drink from the same cup as you, I guess, on this one. But you have a lot of unknowns. You need a lot of guys who are not proven to step up in the skill positions to really change the skill position there. But skill position is tertiary to offensive line. Heck, what's even below tertiary? The play caller, the system, the quarterback, and the offensive line. Then it's weapons. So Broncos have built it the right way. And if you're going to have questions at any spot on the offense, it's where they have them. All right. So I don't want to have a question at left tackle. I don't want to have a question at quarterback. I don't want to know if my offensive play caller and head coach is a dud or not. I feel pretty good about all three of those things. Weapons, questions, but a number of different potential answers, almost more of like a shotgun approach, which again, with young contract guys, day 2 picks, with this regime, feel confident, still need to see proof of concept. So again, you can disagree. You think I'm being a Haterade gaming today, Haterade haming, if you will. That's okay. It's the off season and we'll see where it goes, but supporting us in the off season, Brian Dunn. God bless you, Brian. 1999. Thank you so much for the support. We also got our guy Patrick coming in here. Good to see you so much. And Jason, yeah, no doubt. Offensive line and weapons are better than for Bo Nix than Drake May. I am trying to isolate the quarterback when we're talking about those guys. So we're saying the same thing here. If you flip those two players, I think they would look, it'd be different though, because Bo Nix is a little safer. I think you probably have a little bit more high end, the big time throws from PFF with Drake May. But regardless, great situation for Denver. I'm very optimistic overall. And where we have questions are where you'd prefer to have questions.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like those questions are just, what do we get out of these guys? How do they grow? How do they, improve the room or change the room? I think all of us are expecting an improvement in the run game compared to last year, because it's hard not to improve on the run game from last year. So RJ Harvey should be improvement, but how much of an improvement is he? What step does Devon Bailey, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, what step do they take in, as they enter year 2, year 3 for Marvin Mims? And how can they change that room? What is Pat Bryant? What does he bring to the offense? Is he one of those guys that is able to pick everything up and make a instant impact at wide receiver, or does he need a little bit of time before he starts to, find his groove and make it? So there's a lot of questions with it. And I think with where we graded running back and wide receiver specifically, because they have those young guys who can grow in full of potential and everything, that if we were to do this after the season, like immediately after the next show after Denver loses, basically, we could very easily be talking about these position groups in probably, the B range. Definitely higher than we have them today, just because they have all that potential. It's just unrealized potential at this point. Tight end is probably the only one I would disagree with that, just because we kind of know what we have in the room. Unless Caleb Lohner, the lottery ticket, absolutely just comes out and balls and shows that, hey, 57 snaps in college football, be damned, I'm an outstanding player. Which no one's really betting on that. So
Not
a
this
lot of potential in the room. It's just in running back and wide receiver, it's just unrealized at this point, which is what, again, keeps it down for both of us.
Yep. Yeah, and Mims as well. So, we will see about all that. Patrick, good to see you coming in late. I got a little bit left here. I need to finish it up. Appreciate you guys. So, on the whole, for me, it was B for quarterback, D for running back, C for wide receiver, C minus, D plus tight end, A offensive line. On the whole, I think that probably puts them, because I'm not going to grade them each equally. It's going to be weighted quarterback and offensive line. Probably puts them as a B minus overall offense. And that would put them 12th to 14th, 15th best in the league. That's probably where I view them this season. So, and then that doesn't even account for Sean Payton constantly putting the guys in the right position. So, chance for a top, even though the grades themselves don't look great. I'm not expecting A's across the board, like the Madden ranking or whatever at college football, where you're looking at each positional group with the grades of the stars. But on the whole, God, we're in a good position. I feel as good about the options on offense and being solidified in key positions that I have since probably going into 2014, 2013. And even then it was like Peyton Manning's making up for the offensive line. Like I haven't felt as good about the offensive line since 2006 or whatever the year when like it was Clady and Harris you had there and Cooper.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you there. I think that overall we're probably talking about a B minus for the, offense in general, which is a very good spot to be. But again, we talked about the potential for it. If that some of those guys hit, not even all of them, just if, 2 or 3 guys hit, we're probably talking about B plus for this offense as a unit. Overall, very good place for them to be. I am very excited for it, even though, the grades may not reflect that. I'm very optimistic about this offense, as well as the defense. I've tried to make that clear over it and over the course of, the past few weeks, both on, Broncos for Breakfast and Dove LED Drivers. And we're just in the wait and see point. We got to wait and see what this team does. You can be optimistic all you want, but once the play starts, well, that's when we get our answers for it. Before Nick gets us out of here, just one little programming note. Lance and I won't be live on Friday night. We'll be live on Saturday night. Since Friday is 4th of July, we're going to be enjoying the time, and I hope everybody enjoys their 4th of July. Stay safe and don't drink and drive.
And don't start any forest fires or I will find you. And me and Smokey the Bear will beat you with a hose. Promise. Michael Ronquillo, great show today, Nick and Eric on Broncos for Breakfast. Go, Bo Broncos. Go, Michael. Shout out to everybody coming to Super Chats today. Michael, Troy Franklin, Jason Bonney, with the president of the Troy Franklin fan club. Brian Dunn, 1999. God bless you, Michael, again. Fun show, great show. I mean, we got in 50 minutes here, so it's July 2nd. There's nothing going on. Stuff's going on here at Mile High Huddle, so make sure you guys are following Eric and I, of course, as I try to pull up the comments here. How did I get that? There we go. Example banners. That's what I want. I've got to get rid of that. So follow Eric and I on Twitter. Eric's at Erick Trickel. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, we're over at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, on facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Number one way to catch us, hang out. Happy birthday to Thomas Hall. I see it in the chat as well. Always appreciate seeing Thomas. I always love the cowboy hat aesthetic that he can rock there. I can't pull that off quite yet. But appreciate everyone. Hope you're doing well. Have a great week. Again, keep all your digits. Be smart with the fireworks. Maybe go to a controlled one. I mean, I love setting off explosives too, but I prefer air quality and not setting things on fire. Did you see the explosion in California? Did you see the video of that? Some fireworks warehouse exploded and blew up 2 houses. And I think there were fatalities. So just be safe, man. Just be safe.
And
Have a good
mindful.
one, everyone. Kindness, compassion. Happy 4th. Go Broncos.